you've gotten criticism, and probably more importantly, the government has gotten criticism for having made a substantial guaranteed loan to Tesla at a critical moment out of stimulus funds. It was like a $500 million. And what the critics say is, why in the world should taxpayer dollars be used to fund a $110,000 plaything for George Clooney and Larry Page?
Yes. Now, if that were true, it would be a valid criticism.
Okay, go ahead.
So, first of all, I should say that the loan that Tesla received did not come from stimulus funds at all. In fact, the loan program under which Tesla competed for loans was actually created and signed into law by George Bush.
So it existed prior to stimulus.
It did.
But it's still taxpayer dollars.
It is taxpayer dollars. But it's very, very different from the stimulus funds or the bailouts or anything. In fact, one of the requirements under this loan program, which is called the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program, was that you had to demonstrate viability as a company independent of the loan. This is why General Motors and Chrysler didn't receive any funding under this program, because it's difficult to make that argument while you're going through bankruptcy.
But you say, so they were in bankruptcy. They couldn't make that argument. You weren't profitable at the time you got the loan.
No, but we could demonstrate viability with the Roadster.
Would you have had viability without the loan?
Yes.
So you didn't need the loan?
We did not need the loan. The loan was the value of the loan is really to accelerate the progress of Tesla, not to keep Tesla alive. Huh. Although unfortunately the timing was unfortunate. So it's fair that people would have a sort of a misunderstanding about this, because the announcement of the loan that Tesla got, and also Nissan and Ford got loans that were much larger than what Tesla got at the same time. But these loans were announced right around the time that there were bailouts taking place and there was a stimulus, and so people naturally confused the two, which is unfortunate. But they're really quite different.
And the other issue was that the loan was going to a very expensive plaything for the rich.
Correct, and that is also an incorrect perception. The loan that we received was specifically for the Model S program, which is much higher volume, lower cost.
What will the cost of a Model S be?
About $50,000.
And how many Model S's will you be? When does it launch?
We're expecting to go into production in the middle of next year.
Middle of next year.
20,000 units a year is the
20,000 a year. Okay.
And a few other things that are noteworthy about the ATVM loan. Of course, we pay interest. It's a reduced interest, but we still pay interest. And if we don't pay the loan off early, then there are actually stock warrants that the government gets in Tesla. So it's a pretty good deal, and it's also senior debt.
Yeah,
so,
given the criticism you've gotten from our editorial page, among other places,
right.
Do you wish you had taken the money? If you didn't need the money, do you wish you had done it without the government loan?
We're really hell-bent on accelerating the advent of electric cars and getting electric cars to the mass market as soon as possible. So
$500 million helps.
It definitely helps, and we'll take a lot of heat if it's in support of the greater cause. And we did take a lot of heat. But I think in terms of the editorial page, the criticism that we received, I think was simply we didn't have an opportunity to correct some of the misperceptions. If Holman Jenkins or others had actually understood the correct situation, I don't think they would have been nearly as critical.
Did you talk to
repaying this loan yesterday, Elon? It must feel good to kind of hit back at the critics like Mitt Romney, who called your company a loser.
Well, it really feels good to have repaid the U.S. taxpayer. That's really what's important here. And we didn't just repay the principal. We actually repaid it with interest and a bonus payment. So ultimately, the U.S. taxpayer actually made a profit of over $20 million on this loan.
Right.
So in fact, for this loan, at least, people's tax bill actually went slightly down.
Right. In fact, as you say, I mean, the Energy Department said it was something on the order of about $26 million that they made in profit on this. Elon, you mentioned yesterday to our Bloomberg reporter, Alan Owensman, that this feels like a great weight off of your chest. What are you now able to do that you couldn't before, now that you've repaid this loan?
Well, I think the weight of the chest I was referring to is more from the sense of, I felt that we had a moral obligation to discharge this loan at the earliest reasonable opportunity, while still being good to the institutional shareholders that have supported Tesla over the years, like Fidelity and others. Mm-hmm. So it was really a balance of those two things. And we were attacked a lot by in certain quarters for having some government debt, and I think that it actually matters to some consumers out there to whether or not a company actually does have a government debt, and being able to say, okay, we've fully repaid that debt with interest. I think is helpful to some number of people out there.
Well, I mean,
in thinking about buying a car. So.
Well, that's right. But Elon, I mean, as I was just pointing out when I had shown the clip of Mitt Romney, I mean, you do feel like you can stand a little bit taller when you go to Washington, because those critics, many of them came from Washington.
Right. We certainly have taken quite a bit of criticism over the years, but it is worth noting that for the first several years, the funding from Tesla was entirely private, and in fact, I provided most of that initial funding, and mm-hmm. In late 2008, I actually gave the last money that I had to Tesla to keep the company going. And then some credit must also be given to Daimler, that made an investment in early 2009, and then the first money under the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program actually only arrived in roughly March 2010. Right. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly, I mean, you did stake not only your reputation, but also your money in Tesla. So let's talk a little bit about the company itself and what's in the future. I mean, tell me so far, Elon, the last time you and I talked, you announced that financing program. How is that going?
Oh, the consumer financing program, in terms of making it easier to purchase a Model S, that's going reasonably well. I think we, in the first version of the financing program, didn't get it quite right, but then we were able to work with our banking partners, Wells Fargo and US Bank, to come up with more compelling financing alternatives, such that even if you just take gasoline savings into account, you can buy a Model S for around $550 to $600 a month.
Musk's comments weighing on shares of the stock, which are currently lower by more than 6%. Shark Tank co-host Kevin O'Leary joins us now to discuss this, along with corporate buybacks and also his 2018 stock draft picks. Hey, Kevin, thanks for calling in. What do you think about what Jim Cramer said to Elon Musk's bizarre conference call? Do you think this is an okay thing? How do you feel about it?
There's a certain protocol you have to have when you become public. It's been in place for decades. The same analysts are on the phone call. They're part of your family every quarter. They ask the same questions, and you answer them. That's how it works. Everybody expects that. It's been that way for decades. It's going to be that way decades from now. And so when you breach that, you end up making volatility ensues because it's chaos. People don't understand why you're doing it. What's the reason? Do you have a personal vendetta against these individual analysts? It's ridiculous. Of course there's going to be volatility. If you're a shareholder, you should be pissed. Okay.
And if you can't handle it, he says, get out. Next topic, Apple announcing a $100 billion stock buyback. What do you think of these buybacks? Are companies just using the GOP tax cuts to reward shareholders? Are they not investing enough in CapEx?
First of all, I don't like stock buybacks. They're never guaranteed. If you want to return capital to shareholders, either increase the dividend in perpetuity or do a special dividend. And people say, oh, that's not tax efficient. Let me tell you something. I want my capital back so I can redeploy it wherever I want to deploy it. And that could be in fixed income as well. When a stock buyback occurs, the only option I have is to let the existing management continue to deploy my capital in that name. I don't like stock buybacks. I want cash. In cash, I trust. Everything else is beep.
As you've made clear many times. All right, finally, your stock draft pick, Blue Apron, reporting earnings. It's currently in the green, but you are in second to last place, Kevin.
Oh, we're in such early times, and talk is so cheap. This is a 12-month press. You know that. I think my picks are going to win again. I will crush all the competitors. And I'm so disappointed in Bethany. You know, I took her under my wing in the Shark Tank. I tried to be her mentor. She was my grasshopper. And then when I saw her there competing with me in the stock draft, I knew it was over between us. Gloves are off. I'm going to crush her, too.
Well, she picked Spotify, and so that's been hurting her. She's off by 2%. You're off by double that, nearly 4%. Thanks,
but look
Kevin.
at the quality of my names. I'm not taking that down. I will survive and win. I will crush everybody.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.